Most people are not bad with money. They're just doing the right things in the wrong order. They save a little, then they hear they should invest. Then somebody says debt should come first. Then another person says cash is trash. Then someone else says max out retirement accounts immediately. And somewhere in the middle of all that, they're also trying to pay rent, buy groceries, replace tires, and maybe have a life that feels at least slightly enjoyable. So the problem usually isn't laziness, it's lack of sequence. Because money gets a lot easier once you know the order. And that's what I want to show you today. This is a financial order of operations, a step-by-step priority system for your next dollar. Most viewers probably haven't seen it laid out this clearly before. They've heard isolated rules. They've heard hot takes. They've heard one-size-fits-all advice from people online who act like every 27-year-old with a car payment and a dental bill should live like a monk in a storage unit. That's not helpful. What is helpful is knowing which financial move deserves priority first, which one comes later, and why. Because two people can earn the exact same income and still end up in completely different places financially, often because one used money in a smart sequence and the other used money in a chaotic sequence. That difference compounds. So today I want to walk through the order itself, explain why each step sits where it sits, and show you how this framework can help you make calmer, cleaner financial decisions. Before the actual steps, there are a few ground rules. First, generosity matters. That doesn't mean you need to be rich before you care about other people. It means building the habit of giving, supporting, sharing, helping, however that looks in your life. Time counts, money counts, attention counts. The bigger principle is that money should be a tool, not your entire personality. Second, your life still has to feel like a life. I'm very pro-saving. I'm very pro-investing. I'm also very aware that if your financial plan makes you miserable, you probably won't stick with it. So enjoy things, travel sometimes, eat somewhere decent once in a while. Upgrade parts of your life that actually matter to you. Just do it consciously. And third, this order is a guide. Life is messy. Sometimes you build an emergency fund and then immediately have to use it because your car decides to develop character. Sometimes you pause investing for a few months because your income changes. Sometimes you move backward before you move forward again. That's normal. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is direction. So let's get into the actual order. Step 1 is saving your highest insurance deductible in cash. This is your starter emergency reserve. For a lot of people, that number might be tied to health insurance. Maybe it's $2,000. Maybe it's $5,000. Maybe it's more. Whatever your highest deductible is, that becomes the first target. Why start there? Because if life punches you in the face financially, cash gives you options. Without cash, every emergency turns into a second emergency. The first emergency is the medical bill, the car repair, the broken appliance, the sudden flight, the weird thing your dog ate. The second emergency is how you pay for it. And that second emergency gets expensive fast. You swipe a credit card. You carry a balance. Now a one-time problem becomes a long-term drag on your finances. This is why a small cash cushion matters so much. It reduces desperation, and desperation is terrible for money decisions. You don't need a perfect emergency fund here. You need the first layer of protection, enough to stop every unexpected expense from turning into debt. So if your deductible is $5,000, your first big money mission is $5,000 in cash, ideally parked in a high-yield savings account where it's accessible and separate from your daily spending. Then comes step 2, capture the employer match. This is where a lot of people get the order wrong because they think every form of debt should be attacked before any investing happens. That sounds emotionally satisfying. It sounds disciplined. It also can be terrible math. Let's say your employer matches 50 cents on the dollar up to 6% of your salary. If you contribute enough to get the full match, you're getting an immediate return on your money. That is extremely powerful. Imagine you put in $6,000 over time and your employer adds $3,000. That's a 50% return before the money even has time to grow. That's hard to ignore. So once you have that starter cash reserve, the next move is usually to contribute enough to your retirement plan to get the full match. That could be a 401k, 403b, 457, or a similar plan. This is one of those moments where sequence really matters. Because someone who skips the match for 5 years may lose tens of thousands of dollars in contributions and future compounding. Let's keep the math simple. Suppose you miss out on $3,000 a year of employer match for 5 years. That's $15,000 you never received. If that money had decades to compound at a solid long-term market return, it could become a very large number later, potentially 6 figures depending on time and returns. That's why this step comes early. Free money deserves respect. Step 3 is eliminate high-interest debt. This is where the order gets serious. Credit card debt lives here, always. No debate, no cute tricks. No, I'm earning more in the market than my APR. That game works until it doesn't, and most people lose it. If you're paying 25% interest on a balance, that debt is eating you alive quietly and efficiently. Car loans can fall here depending on the rate and your situation. Some private student loans can fall here too. The broad principle is this: if the interest rate is high enough that it's heavily working against you, it becomes a major priority. Why after the employer match? Because the match is usually too valuable to ignore. Why before full investing? Because high interest debt is a leak in the boat, and there's no point obsessing over portfolio optimization while the floor is underwater. Picture two people. Both earn $70,000. Both want to build wealth. Person A invests aggressively while carrying $10,000 of credit card debt at 24%. Person B gets the employer match, then wipes out the credit card debt fast. A year later, person A feels productive because they're investing. Meanwhile, a huge chunk of their gains gets canceled out by crushing interest. Person B has less financial theater and more real progress. That's a theme in personal finance. Looking sophisticated is easy. Making effective decisions is harder. And this is also where behavior matters. High interest debt isn't only a math issue, it's often a stress issue. It creates monthly pressure. It reduces flexibility. It makes job loss scarier. It turns minor setbacks into bigger setbacks. So step 3 is about cleaning up the most dangerous financial drag first. Step 4 is build the full emergency fund. Now we move from a starter cushion to real resilience. At this stage, the goal is usually 3 to 6 months of living expenses in cash. Notice I said living expenses, not income. If your core monthly expenses are $3,000, that means your target might be somewhere between $9,000 and $18,000. If your monthly essentials are $5,000, now you're looking at $15,000 to $30,000. I know some people hear that and immediately think, that seems like way too much cash. Until they lose a job, until a parent gets sick, until a company does layoffs and calls it restructuring, because apparently that sounds more elegant. Emergency funds can look boring in good times. In bad times, they become beautiful. This is the part most people underappreciate. Your emergency fund is what protects your investments from your life. Without it, every surprise tries to drag long-term money into short-term chaos. You start raiding retirement accounts. You stop investing for long periods. You run up cards again. You sell investments at the worst possible time. Cash gives your plan durability, and durability matters more than intensity. A fragile financial plan can look impressive for 6 months. A durable one wins over decades. Step 5 is where the wealth-building engine starts to get exciting. This is tax-advantaged growth beyond the employer match. For many people, that means a Roth IRA and a health savings account if they're eligible. Why are these accounts here? Because tax treatment matters more than most people realize. A Roth IRA gives your money the chance to grow and later come out tax-free in retirement, assuming you follow the rules. That's powerful, because future you gets to keep more of what the investments become. The health savings account is even more interesting if you qualify. It can offer a tax deduction going in, tax-free growth while invested, and tax-free withdrawals for qualified medical expenses. That's one of the best deals in the entire personal finance world. And yet most people don't think about taxes until taxes are already happening to them, which is very on brand for humans. We focus on visible costs. Taxes are often less visible. That makes them easier to ignore. And expensive things that are easy to ignore tend to stay expensive for a very long time. Let's say 2 investors each put away $7,000 a year for decades. One does it with strong tax advantages. The other uses a less efficient route. Over time, the difference in taxes paid can become enormous. That's money that could have stayed invested and kept compounding. So this step is about building smarter, not only harder. Step 6 is increase retirement investing through employer plans beyond the match. This is where you shift back into accounts like your 401k and continue filling them more aggressively. A useful benchmark here is working toward about 25% of gross income going toward long-term wealth building, whether that happens through retirement accounts alone or through a mix of accounts. And yes, 25% sounds high to a lot of people. That's because it is high by normal standards. That's also why it changes outcomes. Savings rate is one of the most powerful levers in personal finance. Income matters, returns matter, time matters. Your savings rate ties all of it together. If someone earns $100,000 and consistently saves $25,000 a year toward long-term investing, they are playing a very different game from someone saving $5,000. Same country, same market, very different future. And this is where a hidden shift starts happening psychologically. Early in the journey, saving feels like deprivation. Later, if you stay consistent, saving starts to feel like ownership. You realize every invested dollar is buying future flexibility, more room to breathe, more options, more ability to say no to nonsense. That's when investing stops feeling abstract. It starts feeling personal. Now, here's where things get interesting, because around this point, most people assume the next step should be paying off every remaining debt as fast as humanly possible. Emotionally, I get it. People love clean slates. People love dramatic before and after stories. People love saying debt-free scream into a camera. Yet, financially, the next step can be different. Step 7 is hyper-accumulation. In plain English, this means aggressively building wealth beyond the basics. You're now in a season where the core foundation is there. You've got cash, you've handled dangerous debt, you're investing consistently. Now the mission is acceleration. This is where you aim for that strong wealth building rate, roughly 25% of gross income or more, toward retirement and financial independence. Why is this such a big deal? Because this is the zone where time starts working for you in a much more dramatic way. Imagine two people, both age 30. One invests 8% of income, the other invests 25%. Give that a decade or two, and their optionality starts to separate in a major way. One may still need every paycheck with very little margin. The other may be approaching genuine flexibility, career flexibility, location flexibility, life flexibility. That's what financial independence really buys. Not yachts for most people, mostly peace. The ability to choose. The ability to leave a bad job. The ability to take a lower-paying role you actually enjoy. The ability to breathe during chaos. And here's the twist most people miss. Financial independence is often built in very ordinary-looking years. No dramatic montage, no confetti, no viral moment, just a lot of boring, smart decisions stacked together for a long time. Step 8 is abundance goals. This is where your money starts serving the life you actually want in a more customized way. Maybe that means saving for a house down payment. Maybe that means setting aside money for future kids' education. Maybe that means building a travel fund, buying a business, investing in real estate, creating flexibility for early retirement, or designing a work life that feels more human. This step matters because personal finance is supposed to become personal eventually. A strong financial system should help you build security and freedom. Then it should help you shape a life. And yes, some people will look at this step and say, why wait this long to save for important goals? Fair question. The reason is that building your own financial stability first creates a much healthier base for everything else. If you save for everyone and everything around you while your own finances are shaky, you create a very fragile version of generosity. It looks noble right up until an emergency arrives. There's a reason airlines tell you to secure your own oxygen mask first. That advice has survived for a reason. Panic is a terrible helper. So abundance goals come after the core machine is strong. At that point, your goals are funded from surplus, not from instability. And that changes the emotional experience too. You're no longer constantly asking, can I afford to care about this goal? Now you can ask, what goal matters most to me? That's a much better question. Step 9 is low interest debt. This surprises people because they expect the final boss of personal finance to be pay off the mortgage immediately and live debt-free forever. And maybe you choose that eventually. Plenty of people do. There's emotional value there. There's simplicity there. There's peace there. Yet, from a pure math perspective, low interest debt often sits later in the order because your dollars may be more productive somewhere else. If your mortgage rate is 4% and your cash is earning around that level, or your long-term investments are expected to earn more over time, aggressively throwing every extra dollar at the house may not be the highest value move. It can still be a valid move. It just may not be the first move. That's the whole point of this order. Priority is about effectiveness, not emotion alone. And to be clear, personal finance is still personal. If paying off your mortgage early helps you sleep better, that has value. Peace of mind counts. I'm very in favor of sleeping. The key is knowing the trade-off, because once you know the trade-off, the choice becomes intentional. And intentional money decisions usually beat reactive money decisions. Now, can you move out of order? Yes, of course you can. No financial referee is showing up at your house with a whistle. Yet every time you go out of order, you should know why you're doing it and what you're giving up. If you skip the emergency fund, you increase fragility. If you skip the employer match, you leave money on the table. If you delay high-interest debt payoff, you let expensive interest keep feeding. If you ignore tax-advantaged accounts, you may hand away future wealth through taxes. If you rush into big life goals before building a base, you increase the chance that one setback knocks over everything. Sequence matters because trade-offs matter. And this framework also helps with big purchases. People always ask, where does buying a car fit? Where does buying a house fit? Those aren't separate universes. They sit inside the same logic. If you're buying a house while you have no emergency fund, a lot of high-interest debt, and zero cash flexibility, that purchase gets riskier fast. A house is not only a monthly payment, It's a maintenance machine with occasional jump scares. The water heater doesn't care about your budget app. The roof does not respect your spreadsheet. Something always happens. So in general, getting through the emergency fund stage before taking on a large purchase makes a lot of sense. It gives you breathing room. It reduces the chance that one home repair sends you into debt and regret in the same weekend. And here's the deeper reason I like this whole framework. It removes the constant pressure to solve your entire financial life all at once. You do not need to obsess over every money goal every single month. You need to know the current priority. That's much calmer. If you're in step 1, your job is not to argue about advanced tax strategies on the internet. It's to build your starter cash reserve. If you're in step 3, your job is to kill high-interest debt. If you're in step 6 or 7, your job is to build wealth aggressively and consistently. Clarity reduces noise, and noise is one of the biggest problems in modern personal finance. There's too much advice, too many opinions, too many people speaking with absolute confidence about situations that depend heavily on context. A good order cuts through that. It tells you where your next dollar should probably go. And once you know that, a surprising amount of financial stress starts to fade. Because you're no longer asking, what should I do with money in general? You're asking, what is my next correct move? That question is smaller, cleaner, way more useful. So if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Money gets easier when it gets ordered. Build your first cash buffer, get the match, clear the dangerous debt, fully fund your emergency reserves, use tax-advantaged accounts, increase retirement investing, push toward real wealth accumulation, fund the life goals that matter to you, then decide what to do with low-interest debt from a position of strength. That's the sequence. And for a lot of people, just seeing the sequence for the first time is a huge unlock. Because once the order is clear, the path gets clearer too. Subscribe if you want more videos about money, investing, and financial freedom. And I'll see you in the next one.